Attorney Bahns, Judge.
Good morning, counsel. We just received your exhibit books, but they don't have an index.
I apologize, Your Honor. It is an exact replica, I should have the exact replica of the proposed exhibits that I filed last week.
Well, you need to have an index and admitted, objected, the columns. You need to have that chart on there.
Additional. I don't have a chart.
You don't have a chart, okay. All right.
Your
So
Honor, may I approach the witness stand so we put a copy of the exhibits on the witness stand?
you can, but we still need an index.
Well, actually, okay, so his proposed exhibit 7,000 does have this. I guess I understand. Even an adult doesn't know about it. It's just,
That'd be a start.
yeah. I mean, I can use it. I don't mind, I can use it. Yeah, I don't mind. As long as I know titles. I'm good. Do you want a copy too?
Yes, I'm okay. Thank you. And excuse me, Ms. Bahns.
Yes.
So, excuse me, this morning you filed something called an exhibit appendix,
Correct.
and yesterday you filed a pretrial memo. I did not read it.
Right. I got all of my paperwork yesterday for the first time, and I was not aware of everything that I needed to turn in. And it was my error because when I had done an address change, I did not put my apartment number on there because I had just moved. And I just found out about what was going on, and so just my error, mistake. So when I came in yesterday, that is when I got all the paperwork. So they pretty much gave me everything, and they said that I should probably submit something because I was gonna ask for a continuance so I could obtain legal counsel, after seeing all the new motions and complaints filed.
Did you live at 5815 Nouveau Leon Street?
Yes, that's my address. But it's apartment 5.
So are you saying you didn't get the case management order that was mailed to you in October?
No, I haven't received anything since, I think, August. The only thing I had, and it was at my old address, was for the mediation, that's it.
Why would you not give us your apartment number?
It was just a mistake, just an error, because I came in and I had so much paperwork to file here. I honestly didn't even think about it. It wasn't on purpose. It was last minute, and I came in and I was rushing, trying to get paperwork done and file things.
No, not last minute. Back in October. Why wouldn't you give us, or September, when, this action has been going on for over a year?
Right.
Did you think at some point we would need your correct address?
Well, I didn't realize the error until yesterday, when I got the paperwork. Because when I came in, I said, I haven't received any paperwork, I don't have anything.
So you were in court, right? You came to court?
No, I haven't been
At no time have you ever been to court?
No. Mm-mm.
ever?
No.
You went to mediation?
Correct. So yesterday, when we were going through the paperwork and they were giving me copies of everything.
How did you even know about the case the trial, anything? How did you know about anything?
Because of the initial paperwork, I just found out by a fluke because I actually had called in to see if I had an active case. And that was, I think, back in July or August.
So as of last summer, you knew you had an active case?
Yes, I knew I had an active case and I knew that we had to be here on the 21st
For trial?
for trial.
And who told you that?
That's what he had told me.
Did you call my office?
No.
At no time you called my office?
I had the paperwork for the 21st, but that was it for court.
So you didn't call my office?
No,
So show me what paperwork you had that notified you had to be in court.
This was the first paperwork.
Show me the paperwork that notified you had to be in court today.
I don't have any paperwork that notified me to be in court. I just had,
You said just a few minutes ago that you have paperwork that said you had to be in court today.
but it was paperwork that he and I had done together. Because he was trying to change the parenting agreement. And it says on there, March 21st.
Show me what you're talking about.
I'm not sure if I have it with me. Because this is everything that they gave me yesterday.
Did you receive Mr. Allen's pretrial memo, his disclosures of witnesses?
No, nothing. Until yesterday. And then he just gave me the book in the hallway.
I had sent everything to the address that indicated on the change of address or whatever. I had no idea that it was wrong, and the defendant never gave me indication that it was wrong.
I didn't know it was wrong until yesterday.
She's the one that drafted it, Your Honor.
I don't know, that's what she provided. I don't know why she.
No, it was my mistake. I understand that. I'm fully aware. I take responsibility for it.
But you went to mediation.
Correct.
How did you know to go to mediation?
Because of the first initial paperwork that was filed, and I got a letter in the mail for mediation.
Well, how did you get the letter if it didn't have your apartment number on it?
Because that's where that was at my old place where I was living. Because I moved in August.
Yeah, you actually filed a change of address
Correct.
with no apartment number on there.
That's right. That's
And
correct.
it looks like, to me, a residential address, like it's a house.
And in addition, Your Honor, if you look at her pretrial memorandum, she signed it for the 19th, so she had to know before yesterday, or why would it be dated the 19th of March? It was filed on the 20th, but she had signed it the 19th of March, along with her FDF, which is signed on the same date.
I'm baffled as to why an adult person would do that. It's just bizarre. So you think that you're divorced,
I got the
the-
divorce decree yesterday. It's
but
the
this
first-
is a custody action.
They just gave me the divorce decree yesterday.
Who
When
is they?
downstairs in the, I think it's the self-help center. Because they asked me if I was divorced, and I said, well, I've never, I said, I never had anything sent to me, so I said, I believe so, but I'm not sure, so when they pulled it up, they printed out the decree for me.
Ma'am, you were served with a complaint for custody, correct?
Correct. Well, I wasn't served, but the complaint is for custody.
Did you live at 3902 Discovery Creek Avenue?
Yes, that's where I got the paperwork for, mediation.
And you were served with a complaint for custody by Randy Gurley?
No, I was never served, but
So you're saying Randy Gurley lied?
he never served me with those papers.
He didn't give you a complaint for custody?
No.
Well, I mean, she filed an answer.
We were, the thing is that, okay, so we were trying to do the paperwork ourselves. And so I had filled out the paperwork because we were working together. I didn't even know that he had a case open. So we were filling out the paperwork together, so I thought, to try to get everything taken care of. So we didn't have to come to trial and do all of that. So the paperwork, and we changed it so many times, so yeah, there is gonna be paperwork on file, because we were trying to work together to do it. I wasn't even aware that the case was open until I called in to see if I had an active case, and I was a day within defaulting. And so, I was flustered, and I had a lot of paperwork to fill out, and, I just moved, I hadn't even been in my place a week, and I didn't put that apartment number on there, and just not thinking, I guess, and so,
But you did file an answer to the complaint, and you specifically denied paragraphs. You wrote the paragraph numbers on there, so you had to have had the document in front of you.
I did have the document, because I got it when I came to the court. They printed it off for me.
So
At the
as
self-help
of
center.
July, you had it.
Yeah, for the court date back then, correct. But I didn't even see the complaint that he had filed until I actually came in, and it was printed off and given to me.
And if this helps, Your Honor, I do have text from the defendant to the plaintiff, and I'll read what's the pertinent parts. So don't talk to me about fucking rules and consents and everything else, because that shit is null and void. And I can make the court be miserable. I can drag that out for as long as possible if that's what we have to do.
I did say that, because we fought, because we were going back and forth with the paperwork. And then I find out he has a court case, so the whole time you're misleading me, saying that we're going to work it out together, meanwhile saying that I'm not letting him see his son, which that's false, and I have proof of all of that. In his complaint, he talks about me not letting him have him on Christmas and on Halloween. And via his text, he says that it's okay, and he wasn't even supposed to have him Christmas. I was giving him extra time, so
Obviously,
just a lot.
I apologize.
So it's just, it's a mess, because like I said, I thought that when we were coming on the 21st, that parenting order that was already in place, the temporary order from mediation, that was just gonna be finalized. I had no idea of the new accusations or anything until yesterday.
I mean, I just think the text speaks for themselves. She's even admitted that she said it.
I did say it because we were heated, but I
mean,
have
this is her
the
attempt
whole.
to drag it out for as long as possible.
No,
Use
Your
her
Honor,
words.
I have all of the full text that you can see, because we both said nasty things to each other when things were heated.
She's still admitted, you know. And she hasn't been able to establish that she didn't know that it was on the 20th. In fact, the records saying the exact opposite. I mean,
I didn't show up for anything because I was not aware. He just came into my son's life. I'm not going to just not come to court. That's ridiculous. You know, he hasn't been involved for 5 years. And so I'm not gonna just not show up to court just because. That's absurd. I did not know, honestly.
And also, Your Honor, keep in mind that we have witnesses flown out from California for this hearing. I just think it would be incredibly unfair for my client, the witnesses, to continue this trial, especially when she hasn't been able to establish that she doesn't know. And there's evidence admitting, the defendant admits that she's trying to track this out. So I would just,
I
her
said that.
arguments are ridiculous, Your Honor. I just think we need to get this over with, get this trial on.
Well, I don't have a motion, that's for sure. I was just baffled why you would give me an incorrect address when you're filing a document with the
It
court.
was not intentional. It wasn't intentional.
Why would you not think that was important?
I honestly, when I just moved into the apartment and the building number was 5815, and I was filling out a ton of paperwork, and I was trying to do it quickly because I had to get it submitted or I was going to default because I had never been served.
But none of your mail was returned, so we had no idea. None of it was never returned to us. So I don't know that you didn't get it.
I mean, I could check the post office, but no, I've never received anything.
Well, I don't know that you didn't because it was never returned to, and we get lots of returned mail. And that's how we know that we don't have the correct address, but nothing of yours was ever returned, so I don't know that you didn't get it. Okay. Opening statements.
Yes, Your Honor, I won't take too much of your time on the opening statement. I just want to mention that this, when you look at that, you're going to see and you're going to hear testimony from various witnesses, my client and the opposing party, that shows that my client was not only a great father, but it would be imperative that Tristan, who is the son of the parties, deserve more time with each other. You're going to see text messages that state really horrendous things about the opinions of this court, opinions of doctors' recommendations, the opinions of pharmacist recommendations by the defendant, and you're going to see evidence of Tristan's declining academics. Unfortunately, he's not doing well in school. And you're going to see he's not doing well in school because he's been absent quite often. Mind you, you're going to see that he's absent while living with the defendant. And my client, you're going to see he's very involved with his teachers and tries to co-parent with the defendant and can never get anything resolved because of the defendant's unwillingness to co-parent and defendant's requirement that she maintain control of everything. You're going to hear testimony that states that defendant would even deny that my client was the father of Tristan. And you're going to hear testimony that corroborates that from a couple people today. In fact, you're going to hear statements from the defendant herself that states that. But in the end, Your Honor, this is really about safety. We've got to make sure that our children are protected. We've got to make sure that our children are properly educated, are properly taken care of as far as their health concerns. You're going to hear that, as I stated before, that the defendant uses holistic remedies as opposed to what doctors recommend, to the detriment of Tristan, which is admitted in text, and which is corroborated by his absences. And in the end, when you hear all this testimony and evidence, and you're looking at the best interest factors, which is required to show whether or not my client gets sole custody or primary physical custody of Tristan, that there should only be one order, and that's an order for my client to get sole legal and sole physical custody of Tristan and child support via pursuant to Nevada. Thank you.
Do you wish to make an opening statement?
I was gonna ask for continuance, however, I do have evidence to dispute everything he's saying, because on the contrary, I have all of our emails and text messages where I am advocating and asking him why he's not picking up his son, and asking him why he's
Objection,
not
it seems facts not
involved.
in evidence.
It's just an opening statement.
Why he's not involved, why he continues to lie, and I ask him over and over, every month that he's been involved, why do you fight me on everything? I'm not trying to keep your son from you. You came back into the picture, and you're not gonna bounce in and out of his life. You need to be consistent. I have emails showing where he has changed the schedule consistently, where he does not show up, and I don't get phone calls. As far as his witnesses, I know one of those people, that's it. And the last time I seen him was when my son was 2 years old. He's 6, almost 7. So I don't know about all of his witnesses, but, because obviously I didn't get the book until today and I haven't looked at it. Also, when we were initially divorced, we put a custody order in place. So I don't know, he's gone behind my back, and he's done a lot of things, and I've done nothing but be nice to him and try to, help with the relationship. And yeah, have things been heated, and have we both said nasty things? Absolutely, and I have all those emails as well. I would be the first one to admit that, but no, what he's saying is false, it's not true, and I can prove that.
All right, thank you. All right, so the plaintiff is going first. He filed this complaint for custody, and he is seeking to modify the parenting agreement, so it's his burden of proof. Do you understand that, Ms.
Yes.
Bahns? Okay. So the plaintiff has the burden of proof, and he'll go first and call witnesses.
Your Honor, at this time, I call Nakia Bahns.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Family, remain standing and raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that testimony you are about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated.
So, you know my client, Mr. Huber, right?
Correct,
And how do you know him?
because we had a child together.
And that child is Tristan Warren, right?
That's correct.
And Tristan Warren has lived in Clark County for at least 6 months, right?
That's correct.
So, I want to talk about your FDF, your financial disclosure form that you submitted yesterday.
It's not completely filled out
I see that.
because it was last minute.
I see that. So,
I do have my financial documents, Your Honor.
we'll get to your financial documents. You said you work as a nurse according to your FDF, right?
Correct.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that for? With GAADC?
Since November of 2017.
17. Okay, on this financial disclosure form, it states, it looks like 2014. May I approach the witness now?
Yes.
Just so we can clarify.
I have evidence to show from my employer.
Is that a 4 or a 7?
That's a 7. Not 4. I wasn't even here in 2014.
Well, it's what looks like you wrote. So, regardless, you started working as a nurse in November 2007, right?
Well, I've been a nurse since 2010.
But according to your financial disclosure form, you worked at GAADC since November 2007, right?
November or December, correct.
Okay. So, and as we stated, you didn't file your financial disclosure form until yesterday, right?
That's correct.
Even though you knew that you worked at GADC since November 2017. Right?
Okay.
And just to clarify, you did file your pretrial memorandum on the same day, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you didn't attach your last 3 pay stubs to your financial disclosure form, did you?
No, because I did not completely fill that paperwork out, and the court was closed yesterday.
Well, however, you did mark that you swore an affirmative penalty of perjury that you attached a copy of your 3 most recent pay stubs to this form, right?
I guess, and I have them with me.
So then you're admitting the perjury, aren't you?
No, I'm admitting to a mistake because yesterday the court was closing and I had a bunch of paperwork and I turned in a bunch of it, so no, it was a mistake.
But
It's in my fault.
This is your signature,
Sure.
right?
Yes, it is.
We'll let the financial disclosure form speak for itself. And according to that FDF, you make $27 an hour, right?
Correct.
Okay. So how many, and you didn't fill this out in FDF because as you were saying, you were in a rush, how many hours do you work per week?
It just depends. I don't know what you're looking at.
May I approach you when it's wrong?
Yes.
The second page doesn't show that's what per week.
Correct, because I didn't fill it out completely because I did not have time.
So you mentioned before that it depends, your hours depend. Can you give a ballpark figure?
Sometimes 20, sometimes 40. Before it was a lot of hours, but now it's just part-time mainly.
But then again, because you haven't attached your last 3 pay stubs, there's no way we can corroborate that other than your word, right?
Well, no, I actually have them with me, but,
But you didn't attach it to the financial disclosure form, did you?
well, I think we already established that.
So that's yes.
So that
Well,
would
that's a
be,
yes.
that's a yes.
And you never disclosed those pay stubs to me as evidence or to Mr. Huber, did you?
How would I disclose them to you when I just found out about it yesterday?
So that's a no, you didn't. Right?
Well, obviously.
Moving forward, you mentioned that a JD, and I hope I'm saying his name right, Gragel, contributes $3,500 to your household?
Yes, that's my
And
boyfriend.
that's your domestic partner?
That's correct.
Okay. So, kind of want to transition over to your pretrial memorandum. In your pretrial memorandum, you state that under resolved issues and agreed resolutions on the first page, that my client spends $3,000. My mistake. Strike that, I apologize. That my client speaks about spending $3,000 for Bob's clothes. Who's Bob?
Tristan.
Okay. However, and continuing, however, I don't have any, so it does not help me at all. You're referencing clothes from...
He would go, when he first came back into the picture, he was buying him tons of things. And I told him, because he bought him a lot of clothes, and he probably spent $6,000 or $7,000 on clothes, but he didn't understand. I said, how does that help me out in any way when you have the clothes?
So
That doesn't make sense.
Okay, so,
So-
do you not have clothes for Tristan?
No, I do have clothes for Tristan because I buy him clothes. And then Clyde went and he bought, I think he went one time and he went to Target, and he did bring him some clothes to my house.
So you expect my client to spend money for clothes for the wardrobe at your house when you clearly make enough money to do it on your own, right?
No, I don't expect anything.
Look.
But however, when it was
So
an
it doesn't help
issue,
you.
it was an issue of child support, and he kept saying what he buys him and everything that he does for him, and I said, okay, I understand that, but I don't have the clothes, so how
So-
does that make sense?
You mentioned child support. Is there a current child support order?
No, there's no order in place.
So what are you talking about, Ms. Bahns?
Why don't you ask your client? He's the one who
You're the one on the
continuously
stand.
brought it up.
You're the one that was on the stand. I'm asking you the questions, Ms. Bahns, not my clients. So, we're gonna transition over, well, first, you mentioned in the pretrial memorandum, and I wanna move on to your request as far as, custody is concerned, that you mentioned that my client is practically a stranger, right?
Correct.
And that's why, and you've referenced in text messages, of course, that Tristan doesn't wanna go over to my client's house sometimes, right?
Yes, that's what he says.
And you wanna be a good mother, right?
He goes regardless. There was one time where he didn't go because he was crying on the floor and having a fit and he didn't want to go.
So you didn't let him go? Or you didn't make him go?
No, I did not make him go.
Are you aware that's a violation of a court order when you do that?
The police were called and they were there.
Do you have any proof of that?
He called the police, he should.
Do you have proof of that?
That the police were there, I have their card that they left me in a,
Do you have that? Did you file that in your exhibits yesterday?
no.
So you don't have proof of it, do you?
I do, not here, I don't.
So you don't have proof of it, do you?
Of the police that he called?
Of that the police showed up? You said the police showed up, right?
They showed up because he called the police, because I did not make my son go.
But you don't have any proof to any statements that were made by the police to you regarding that, right?
Oh, no, no, no.
Okay, so we're just going on your word, aren't we?
I just figured that he would have it in his paperwork,
We'll get
since
to
he
his
was the one who
paperwork.
filed.
Now, again, I want to move on to, now, you had mentioned that you never denied, except for that one time, you never denied my client time with Tristan during his scheduled time, right?
What do you mean his
Right.
scheduled time?
During the time he was supposed to have Tristan, so.
Yeah, the
for
night the
parenting,
police
yeah.
were called, I did deny him.
Well, aside from that one time, you never did. Right, that's what you said previously. Don't remember?
If you say so.
Okay.
We've had a lot of heated exchanges back and forth, but
So, was there ever a time that you wanted to deny my client his rights as a father?
there have been many times that I told him that I would deny his rights when we were arguing. I can't tell you those times or when they were, but I've said that many of times when we've argued.
In fact, you mentioned it in your counterclaim when you said, you asked to relinquish, for the court to relinquish all rights
Mm-hmm.
from my client, right? Because you don't want your son to see my client, don't you?
No, because he was lying and he opened a case behind my back when I was trying to work with him for joint custody after he had not been involved ever and came back into the picture. So
So-
while I was being upfront and honest with him, he was going behind my back. So yeah, I was
Well,
more than irritated with that.
But in fact, you even denied him as the father of your child, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You denied him as the father during the birth of your child, right?
No, not during the birth of my child. He was at the hospital the night that I had him.
And was it at that point when you stated to my client, what are you doing here?
No, we still had communication every now and then. I mean, he didn't, through most of the pregnancy, he wasn't there, but then towards the end, I met him a couple of times to have lunch and once for dinner.
I also want to mention in the pretrial memorandum that you referenced that my client may be receiving VA benefits as a result, as you mentioned from you. Do you have any proof of that?
What do you mean from me?
Well, you mentioned well, let me ask you.
No, he had
You're the
stated
one-
that he received $3,080 a month, and when I looked at the VA benefits, you would have to claim a child or a spouse to have that amount.
Do you have proof of that?
Have proof of what? The VA?
There were statements they made about the VA.
I have it in my in emails, but in a lot of evidence that I have not had time to gather because I just found out yesterday.
So once again, we have to go off your word, don't we?
Unless we get a continuance.
Well, but you admitted that you could make court hell and drag it out as long as possible. You admitted that before, right?
I've said that to him a lot of times during arguments.
So, I want to mention some other things that you mentioned. When you guys were speaking, and you guys speak mostly on text, right? You don't do any
Correct.
phone calls. And during these texts, at times when you're arguing about whether or not my client can pick up Tristan, he mentions that that's a violation of a court order, right?
What, I don't know what you're referring to.
He's mentioned that you're violating the court order in text before, right?
He says if I don't let him go, I would be violating.
And then you have replied to them that that you don't give a fuck what a judge's opinion is regarding your child, did you?
I probably did say that to him.
So, whatever the court orders, you don't care, don't you?
Well, obviously I do care because in all of our correspondence for every single month, I ask him why he's not coming to pick up his son and why he is not calling me and why he doesn't even call his son to talk to him. So,
But Miss Bahns, you just admitted to me that you don't give a fuck about her orders. You just admitted it, right?
I didn't say anything about her orders because I don't have any orders.
So, but you did admit
I have
to making
said
little statements,
very,
right?
very nasty things to him. I've said all kind of things. The same way he has said things to me. It's that simple.
So you've stated to him, and I'm quoting your text here, and I don't give two fucks what a goddamn judge thinks. A judge's opinion does not matter to me.
I'm sure
when it
I
comes to
probably
my
did tell him
child
that.
and what he or she needs, just so you know. And you just admitted that you sure that you did that.
Yeah, I've said a lot of things.
So how can we believe that you're going to follow orders should the court grant orders today?
Well, because I have all the proof where he doesn't do what he's supposed to do and where I have not withheld my son from him.
Well, we have proof that you don't care, and you admitted that.
Words are words. It doesn't matter what I say. My actions do not keep my son from him. They don't. The only time he has not picked up our son is on his own accord, not because of me. So I can say whatever I want to say. If I don't follow through with that, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so you could just say whatever you want, and we shouldn't take that seriously, or shouldn't take that in consideration because your actions speak louder than
Well, here's the thing. If I was saying those things and then I wasn't letting him have his child and I was denying him access, maybe. But that's not the case.
Like when it was your desire to relinquish rights away from my client, right?
Yeah, when I told him that I was going to ask for relinquishment of rights initially because of what he did. I did not trust him. He came back into the picture. He lied, said that I was served. I was not. When I had really been working hard with him, and I even have statements from my daughter where she saw us filling out the paperwork together. Meanwhile, he was behind my back.
Just saying. So you entered into a temporary parenting agreement.
I did because first,
Wait.
before, oh, okay.
I just need you to answer my question. You entered into a parenting agreement,
Correct.
and it was temporary. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And
Are you talking about through the
you signed
mediation?
this, right?
Correct.
You signed this. And did you believe this was a final court order?
That's what I thought it was going to be. I thought that's why we were coming to court today.
To affirm this parenting agreement?
That's correct. Because that's the agreement that we came to in mediation with, I think her name was Sandy, or Sandra or something.
Okay. And so this is what you've agreed to. This is the timeshare that you've agreed to, correct?
Correct. And I have all the emails, Your Honor. I've never
I don't
denied
want to
him
know
his
about
son.
emails right now. I just want you to answer my questions,
Okay.
please. Okay.
Now, I kind of want to transition over to Tristan's education. He's not doing well in school, is he?
He's doing he's not doing terrible in school, but
But he's not doing that well, right?
he is doing well because I talk to his teacher daily and she sends me his progress.
Do you have any evidence of that?
I do have evidence of it, not with me, but
So again, we have no way to corroborate whether or not you have evidence. You have to use your statements, right?
unless we get a continuance and I can provide evidence.
Unless you get to drag out the court again, you mean.
Well, it's really not dragging out because this is my first time here.
So, have you taken a look at his report card?
Yes, I get all his report cards.
And you're aware that in his last report card, he's had Fs on that report card, right?
He had one F, yes,
And he's had Ds on that report card, right?
and I'm also having him tested for dyslexia.
Do you have any proof of that?
Yes, with his therapist, because she's the one getting the referrals for me.
Is your therapist here to testify as a witness today?
No, she's not. Why
So
would
what-
she be here when I found out yesterday?
So once again, we have no proof to corroborate your statements, right?
Nope, not unless we get a continuance and I can submit evidence.
I apologize, Your Honor. Just wanted to see.
It's all right. Let me ask you a question while you're looking at that, counsel. The two of you were married,
Mm-hmm.
and this, I have a decree of divorce with your name on it, but the joint petitioner is Clyde Von Brouwer.
Correct.
Who is that?
So,
That's,
I apologize, Your Honor.
That's the plaintiff?
Correct.
Yes, so when I call him up, I'll clear that up. He had changed his name
Okay.
subsequent to that.
Okay, all right. So that's where the court was confused.
Nice.
But at the time that you got this divorce in 2014, it says there are no children.
I saw that yesterday, which I found strange since we filled out the paperwork with the notary about Tristan. And when I saw that, he filled that paperwork out.
But you
I
signed it.
signed those back 2 pages, and I have a vague memory of it, but I thought we had done a parenting order. So when we went to the notary, we acknowledged Tristan, we acknowledged child support. So when I seen that yesterday, I thought, I didn't understand why he was not listed on there.
Ma'am, do you make a habit of signing legal documents that you don't know?
Honestly, I
say?
trusted him, and it was just supposed to be, it was first supposed to be an annulment, and then I guess it went to a divorce, and, it was quick and it was brief, and there was no property or anything, and
But
so.
you had a child,
Right.
and you signed a legal document that said you did not have a child.
I did not realize that paperwork said that on there, because in the other paper.
Did you read it?
That's not the paperwork that I had read, so I don't.
So you're claiming fraud then? That somehow he took your signature?
No,
and
no,
put it
no,
on a
no.
different
I signed those
document?
back pages, but he filled out those front pages. He
Did you
just
read
explained.
it?
I don't think I did because there were no assets or anything, and then we had,
Oh, no. Did you read it?
no.
Why would you sign a legal document that's notarized and not read it?
We had gone over it before, like the initial pages, before we had gone to the notary.
So you're claiming fraud then, that he switched pages on you?
I don't know if he switched pages or not.
Did the ones that you read, did they say you had a child?
I thought, it was,
Listen, did the pages that you read say you had a child?
that's what I recalled.
And the pages that got filed say you do not have a child.
That's what they said yesterday, that's correct.
So how could that happen?
I don't know. I wrote out the statement too, acknowledging Tristan and had it signed and notarized, so there's acknowledgement of him, so I don't know why it's like that on the paperwork. I didn't fill that paperwork out.
But you signed it.
Right. I mean, honestly, I did not mistrust him about anything. I figured that he was being honest.
I continue to be baffled by you, ma'am.
I trust people too much. I trusted him just like I did with the
You
joint
sign
custody.
legal documents that you don't know what they say. You give your address to a court of law when it's incorrect. I'm just baffled by why you do things like this.
I was flustered because I've never been in this position
I'm
initially.
flustered. I'm flustered because of you
Sorry.
and your actions. I'm amazed. I've never seen anything like this. Do you have the resources to hire counsel?
Yes, I want to hire an attorney.
I suggest you do that immediately.
Okay.
This is a quagmire counsel, which I find she's entirely responsible for this quagmire, and she owes you attorney's fees
Absolutely.
for today because she created this problem that we face today.
Well, and of course, we don't know what's true and what's not true.
That is correct. That is correct, because the court has no returned mail, so I don't know that she didn't get her mail, and she misrepresented her address to a court, and yet, to go forward, there has to be sufficient evidence, or it's subject to being overturned, and that doesn't do anybody any good, because we'll find ourselves back in a year doing this all over again, if it gets overturned.
I'm sorry if it's overturned.
My decision, based upon this
I mean,
procedurally deficient trial,
she would have quite the burden to overcome, I would think, and like you said, we have statements that she's admitted to making mistakes, and then
she's admitted to having a foul mouth, and she's admitted to being vindictive and spiteful, and she says it goes both ways, and I haven't seen her evidence, but she's admitted to those statements and admitted to dragging it out, and she will pay your fees,
yes, sir.
right? For preparing for a trial today that I am going to continue, but not long, and you hire counsel,
Okay.
but she'll pay your
If
fees.
I- so I have
So
a-
submit
oh.
your memorandum of fees and costs to prepare for trial today, and the time that you have spent today, and I will give a brief continuance. Very, very brief.
So I have a question. So when I submit all my evidence, and if I'm
Well,
going
your
to
attorney does.
Oh, okay, and I'm going to contact the post office because I never received mail. I'll have my attorney submit evidence because I have lots of it, but obviously didn't have time to get it together.
And Your Honor,
This is no joke, and
I understand
and I'm
that.
very frustrated. Okay.
Your Honor, honestly, it was a human error and a mistake. Like I said, the day I
But you
came
did.
in,
No, I don't need you to go on. You went to mediation. You signed a parenting agreement. You knew there was a case. You signed an answer and counterclaim, admitting and denying a complaint for custody. So you knew that custody was at issue. So you have more culpability than just giving the court an address that was deficient. You have more culpability than that, ma'am, okay? You knew there was a case pending. You answered it. And you read it because you referenced the paragraph numbers. And you went to mediation, and you knew you had to provide the court with a change of address, and yet you provided the court with a deficient address.
are you talking about for today or?
So the trial will be continued,
Would
I
I
have to
have-
block out my whole motion, my law and motion calendar for a Wednesday, because I don't have a place to put them. So I'm looking at it maybe June 12th. I think it's too soon. That's what I think. Yeah, I know. June 12th. June 12th. So I'd have to do the whole,
So I'll just block out.
all that, put a trial. 9 a.m. Yeah. Counsel, are you available June 12th?
I do have a couple of questions, let me find out one.
Sir, you may be frustrated, but because of what she's bringing up, if I were to go forward with the trial and make a decision, it could be subject to being reversed.
I understand, Your Honor. My only major concern is in the meantime, my son continues to miss school and not be treated properly with health care.
That's not
Which was
true.
brought
I
up-
don't think
Bring a
that's fair.
motion, bring a motion.
Which was brought up, well, I brought that temporary motion that was due for today.
Your Honor, and I have proof.
I did not ask
Against
for,
that.
I did not ask for
Okay.
argument on that.
I would ask, just based on that motion, Your Honor, based on the fact.
We'll hear
that-
the motion,
I'm sorry?
we'll hear the motion
Okay.
today, but can you do the trial on
I'll
June
pass.
12th?
Yes, the 12th is fine, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, that's when we'll do the trial. For her dad. Yeah. And you'll have an attorney, okay, and that you'll receive a trial management order. If I don't have a notice of appearance from an attorney, it's going to the address that you put on your documents.
Okay, what was the other thing that you said, the trial what?
That's all I said.
No, you said that you will have a trial,
Management order,
what's that?
it tells you what to do for your trial.
Okay. And I will get that downstairs?
It will be mailed to you at the address that you provide to the court.
Okay.
And would I be able to submit additional evidence since she
Yes,
sends it back?
yes, yes. You may return to the table.
Okay.
All right, Dad, your motion.
So.
So we reference, so the motion to modify that temporary parental agreement is very, very important. The reason why it's important because we have offers of proof of all sorts of issues with Tristan. His grades are failing. He has, on his most recent report card,
What grade is he in?
first grade.
He's in first.
And it's very important because he's just starting out, he's already starting out with two Fs, a D, he's missed 45 days since kindergarten. According to the most recent report card, he missed 8.5 absences during the semester, but that doesn't even tell the whole story because this was his second school. He's actually missed 30 to date. And then he's had 26 tardies as well. So this is very important. This is one of the principal reasons why we are trying to modify this, but we're trying to do what's right. What I said in my opening statement earlier in the trial is what's paramount is the safety and education of children that can't defend themselves, that don't have a voice on their own. My client gets denied his visitation in Halloween. But it's kind of worse than that, because what happens is the defendant plans things around his holidays, tells the child about those plans, and then tells my client, if you say no, you're going to really disappoint him, and now he's going to leave kicking and screaming, so then he feels bad. Then he becomes a better father because he doesn't want to ruin his child's Halloween. He's like, okay, I'll give up my time. And by the way, that time's never made up. And she constantly and consistently does this. We put in the appendix about that she doesn't give a fuck about judge's orders. And that's quite clear. And truancy truancy officers have been brought to her house with no answer. My client has heard statements from his son stating that I didn't go to school today, or I didn't go to school on a certain day because mom and dad, who, by the way, defendant makes Tristan call her domestic partner dad while referring to his real father as Clyde. Continuously undermines my client as a father. And despite all this, by the way, my client's still trying to co-parent because he's hoping someday, when all of this nastiness is over, that the parties will come together for the benefit of Tristan, because in the end, that's all he wants. And it's so frustrating, because she's the one responsible during days when he has school. She's the one who's responsible when he gets ill, so she claims, although she doesn't have any evidence of any doctor's notes, because she didn't file an opposition, she didn't bring any evidence today of any doctor's notes to corroborate what she says, and the school has told my client that none of that's true too. She mentions that the therapist recommends that Tristan doesn't see you and text to him, but then when he checks and calls the therapist denies it completely. So it's just as this is a quagmire of a case. And all that we're asking for is for my client to modify, for him to have temporary primary custody while this is going on, so that we could take care of these issues with grades. And we'll be able to show you that through subsequent progress reports, through subsequent attendance reports, that it's being done by my client. My client wants to be there for his son. She's not giving him a chance to be there. And
You see all the truancy letters, there's a lot of them.
yes, there's quite a bit. And you know, my client only gets Tristan during the weekends. It's not much he can do. He just wants a chance to be able to improve his education. He would like to work with her. He'd rather work with her. He's not the type that wants to come here. It's miserable. He's having a miserable time. But unfortunately, these things happen, as you know, as we all know. And we're here. But
And is he sick a lot? Is he sick a
well,
lot?
she claims he is.
Well,
and-
Dad sees him too, doesn't he?
Well, when as far as when Tristan is around my client, no.
He's had an ongoing,
Yeah.
Your Honor, he's had an ongoing respiratory issue
Right, I
that we've
see
known
him.
about for over a year.
Right.
I had to take him to the ER over the holidays between December and January.
Right.
And this just goes back to the text messages we submitted where she doesn't care about what you think, she doesn't care about what doctors think. But he's usually a very healthy boy, but I'm very concerned about that because he aspirated on himself and urinated on himself. He was coughing so hard in my bed, and I'm about to cry because
Yeah.
it scared the bejesus out of me. And I didn't know if he's going to be okay, and she doesn't want to give him medications.
That's not true.
She didn't go after a week.
You'll have an opportunity for this.
I sent him home with prescriptions that week after he was released from the hospital that night, and those prescriptions weren't even filled and brought to me the next weekend. I had him with me, so he didn't even have the medications that the doctors wanted him to have.
And he has asthma or reactive airway disease?
No.
He has not been diagnosed formally, but she has respiratory issues in her family, as do I, and he's constantly had whooping cough incidences. They seem to be worse around the winter time, which is also consistent
Okay,
with
so
me.
he needs to be seen by a pulmonologist, I think you said?
And I've been
That was
pressing,
referenced.
I've been pressing the defendant on this issue
That
for
was
over
referenced.
a year.
Mm-mm.
So the defendant ends up taking him to these holistic doctors, and he put and
No, holistic treatment.
holistic treatments. My fault. My mistake. And you know, I don't know if they're recommending or she's just doing it on her own, but you know, it's put. I believe it's called cordial silver around the eyes to help him heal. When he went to the pharmacist and he notified her of this, that's an old wives' tale that doesn't work, and actually it could hurt Tristan. And just like with your court orders, Your Honor, I don't care what a pharmacist thinks. And mind you, by the way, she's a nurse.
So she's a nurse that has had training and still doesn't follow doctor's orders. So it's kind of weird, right? Because you'll follow doctor's orders when it comes to patients, but when it comes to your own son, you don't? It is mind-boggling, Your Honor. And I'm done unless you have any other questions.
Well, no, I'm gonna enter a behavioral order today, so I'm just gonna ask how you wanna communicate by email or text message, because
I would say talking parents would be the best way to go.
talking parents, okay, because of the language
Your Honor.
that's being used. You'll have an opportunity.
Okay.
I also,
It's on my
one
computer.
last,
I'll
oh,
put it
sorry,
on the
excuse me.
computer. Yeah.
One last thing I do want to mention, I apologize, I know I said I was done. My client wants to request that both parties have a drug test because he believes that the defendant may be under the influence of narcotics when she's been around. There's a history of her abusing narcotics, and he's willing to take one himself, and I think it would be prudent just to see if there is or there isn't, based on everything that's going on, based on the fact that they're not taking Tristan to school, based on the fact that when he does have illnesses, they're not doing anything about it. Just the behavior and his knowledge of her past, he's just worried that Tristan is being watched by someone who's under the influence of narcotics. Which is, again, another reason why we're trying to modify this so my client would be able to take Tristan to school and be able to take care of him. And we would rather it be a hair test as opposed to a urine test, just so we can really see what's going on. Because a urine test, if it's cocaine, I believe it's only in your system 4 days. So if you're prepping for trial and think that might happen, you'll make sure to clean yourself. So he's willing to take a hair test also, by the way. So,
In the behavioral order, did you put the communicate by
and then,
text
and then now I'm done.
It's in the body of the document or on page 2 or something? Well, they're not numbered, I don't have a number. It's usually 2 or 3 pages, and it says they communicate. Must not be the right one. I don't think that's the right one.
Oh, behavior order with children.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so they're asking for email addresses, because I guess they're assuming it's going to be placed, but I'm just going to put
Talking parents, thank you. Okay. Alright, okay, Mom, so tell me about all of these absences and these truancy letters.
Okay, do I stand?
Yeah.
Okay, first off, Your Honor, I have for Christmas and Halloween.
No, tell me about these truancy letters and
truancies
all of
are-
these missed classes.
Okay, so the absences are not correct, and I am working with his teacher, because they had absences in there that should not have been there, as well as tardies. And she admits via Class Dojo that those are errors, and they are working on correcting those. Initially, I did not think that he was.
Many truancy letters.
I did not think that I was gonna homeschool him, because, like I said, I think he's dyslexic.
Did you have Dad's permission to do that?
To homeschool?
Yeah.
I didn't know that I needed that for the temporary
You
order.
have equal rights.
Oh,
It's joint legal custody, it's in your parenting agreement. Okay, go ahead and talk about whatever you wanna talk about.
okay, so he keeps bringing up Halloween and Christmas, and right here, I have his own words where he says, where I asked him on the 18th of October if it was okay for Tristan to go trick-or-treating with, my grandbaby's mom's son, because he's his age and they play together, when I have my grandbaby. And so right here, he says, I don't have any objection. He said, I just don't want it to become common practice. So I didn't deny him anything. He was okay with that. I also have the statements from Christmas where I asked him 9 times if he was gonna come pick him up. And he refused, he didn't do it. not only that, so, several different times he did not pick him up, and I have them all outlined where he says, where I keep asking him repeatedly, and I tell him it is not fair to do that to Tristan. I also have emails and text messages here where Tristan wanted to speak to him on Christmas Day, and he wouldn't speak to him. He didn't take his phone call. And he's like, I'm supposed to have him. I offered to give him Christmas Eve, the day before Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, all the way through that Friday, even though it wasn't in the parenting order, because his dad was coming into town, and I thought that they would want to spend time together.
Well, let me focus you on what the court is focused on. I'm not so much concerned about maybe some miscommunication or taking advantage of someone's holiday time right now, because on a temporary basis, he's asking for a change in custody for the health, safety, and welfare of the child. And I'm looking at his respiratory problems, his health problems, the tardies and the absences, the truancy letters, and his grades. That's what I'm focused on.
Correct.
Because if I'm to change custody on a temporary basis, it would be for those reasons. And he has provided me with documentation saying that there are numerous absences, that the grades are terrible, and there's all these truancy letters. So what do
There
you
were-
have? That's why I asked you about the truancy letters, and you said, well, it's a mistake.
No,
That
not
the
truancy
teacher didn't
letters,
have it on
mistake.
there right. The
No.
teacher didn't correctly mark him, and I have another chart that has all of these missed assignments, Fs. I mean, pages and pages. Missing grade, missing assignment, F, grade adjusted F,
When are those
F,
from?
2018.
Well, I mean, because I talk to his teacher daily, and she gives me progress reports, and his work gets turned in. And we were working with, trying
He's
to get.
getting 5 out of 20.
Pardon?
He's getting 5 out of 20. He gets 5 right out of 20.
And he still writes backwards, and he puts his clothes on backwards, which is why I think he is dyslexic, and
So
I'm
have
having
you
him
talked to
tested.
Dad about having him evaluated?
We don't speak, I tell the therapist, because now I guess that he's in contact with her. Because when we put him in therapy,
He's got D's and F's.
his grades aren't D's and F's right now, Your Honor.
I'm looking at his grades.
The current grades?
Yes.
Okay, I'd have to get on his class dojo, because they weren't low like that. But as far as the help
He
goes,
need-
I
he
have all
needs-
the,
He needs help.
he does, I believe that he is dyslexic. We did have problems in the very beginning of the school year, because of some behaviors and other things. But if you look, you'll see that since I started working part-time and I take him to school, he has not been missing days and he has not been tardy.
I don't see that.
I have the paperwork from the teacher at home where she adjusted a lot of things. So I would have to look and see. As far as his health goes, Your Honor, I have sent Clyde with medication and his antibiotics, so I'm not sure why he's saying that. Furthermore,
Is he on medication right now?
no, he's not on medication right now.
Okay.
He has environmental allergies like I do.
Okay.
He has a lot of animals. He does not have those respiratory problems at my house. He's never had to use his inhaler one time at home. But every time he goes with him, because he has so many animals, he gets flare-ups.
Has he been diagnosed as being allergic to pet dander?
In Seattle. Not here when I lived in Seattle.
Dad, has he been diagnosed as allergic to pet dander?
He is not, to my knowledge, no. I've been pushing for allergy tests with her and for him to see a pulmonologist.
Okay, so.
I've offered to remove the pets if there's some conclusive tests. I'm more than willing to
Okay,
get rid of
so
them.
by next week, the two of you are going to find a pulmonologist. Okay, I hate ordering parents to do this, but it's obvious that he needs help.
Your Honor.
And I have two parents that aren't talking, and I have one that's, every other word's an F word. So
I
that,
have these messages
the
too.
truancy letters, they speak volumes. Volumes, ma'am, I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them.
And I dealt with Children's Services, and they closed my case out after 2 days. She came to my home.
I don't know anything about children's services, but I see 1, 2, 3, 9 truancy letters.
I have it right here, where, and I explained to
I've
her.
never seen 9 truancy letters, ever.
I understand.
Well, you
that.
seem to have an explanation for everything, and I really do want to hear that. I do. And that's why I'm moving the trial, because I want to hear your explanations. They might be very good ones. But I have to think, what's best for this little boy right now. He's not getting health care, he's not going to school, and he's flunking first grade.
He does get health care, Your Honor. I just took,
He's been to a
took him.
pulmonologist, he's been to an allergist. Yes? All those things? No.
He hasn't, no,
That's not what I'm hearing today. But it will happen next week. You'll make
I
appointments
took
next
him
week.
to the Children's Hospital, and they said that he has environmental allergies, and they said that they recommended taking him to get him
All
tested.
right. Where is he today?
He's at school.
Okay. All right. Okay, Dad. You will have an opportunity to step up, and I will see if anything changes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay? So I'm granting your motion on a temporary basis until the time of trial, and I want to see if anything changes for this little boy, and I hope it does for the better.
Yes,
Your Honor.
I have one.
Can I have?
One
oh,
request, apologize.
Oh.
One request. Would my client be able to move Tristan to schools that's closer to him, because for him
It's a better
to do, it's a better school, and then it's more than an hour drive to take him to school and then take him home.
Your Honor,
Well, he's missed so much school at this other one, I don't know what the harm would be on it without prejudice.
Thank you, Your
I
Honor.
mean, he's not even going to school, so.
that is not true. Your Honor, I
I'm
have,
listening.
all
let,
these-
let me have all those papers.
Okay,
Give them
please.
to Frank. Give them to Frank. Let me take a look at them. You
And
have
these
all
two,
this
please.
stuff. I'm gonna look at it.
can you give these two? And then this one also.
Now, I wanna see about school. I don't know what this is. This is the two of you going back and forth.
This is Hotmail, email search.
I'm sorry.
Your Honor, I have.
Give me the school stuff. Where's the school stuff?
I don't have all of that with me because I didn't have time to prepare everything, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, so
I
this is
have
about
medical-
trick or treating.
I have all
This is
his,
about, let's see.
I have all his
You should
immunizations.
have done your case closed. I really appreciate that. In this regard to CPS being called on me multiple times. This is Christmas, okay. Now, I really wanna hear about his health,
Your Honor, I
his
have this
school,
right here.
his grades, and what he's been tested for, so.
Can I have,
Do you have that information for me? That's what I need to see.
can I have a couple days to turn it all in so I can
Oh,
gather it?
okay,
Because I
no.
don't have it with me.
Well,
What I do have
can
though.
see is what I've seen from the plaintiff, and that he's missed school,
Do I have
and that,
this?
it's not really working.
Your Honor, I have
Zyrtec doesn't work
documentation
for
where I've
him.
asked him to help get
Fact
him to
is, you've
school.
never taken him to doctor's appointments, you're an absentee father, you get emotional and depressive, you don't pick
What
up your
doctor
child.
appointments?
First off, stupid, nowhere in that message did I get nasty,
Can you give
and
these,
since
please?
you're so dumb, you know.
Those are
CNA
medical.
becomes a CNA in 2 weeks, dumb, so, judicial system does not operate on the words of nut jobs such as yourself. So even if you were trying to file anything, jackass, the judge is going to ask you for proof. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, and this to your Honor, this right here.
Medical care. This is October 2nd. He went to the doctor. He
I
went to the
took him, yes.
hospital.
Yes, I took him at 7 in the morning because
Okay.
he had been at his house and he came back and he was coughing. And so I took him to get that treated because he had come back from his house and he had that flare-up. I've never not taken him to the doctor. He has all his immunizations.
So is this Dr. Craig Nakamura, is he a pulmonologist? It says children's lung specialist, and it's in somebody's handwriting.
That was from the nurse.
Right, so it's a follow-up on this children's hospital. So when you took him in October of 2018 to Children's Hospital for asthma, and the nurse wrote a referral to children's lung specialist, Dr. Craig Nakamura, with the address and phone number. Did you follow up and go to that
I
doctor?
asked for that referral.
Did you follow up and go to that doctor?
I didn't take him to that doctor, no. I asked for that referral because when I was at the ER,
So why did you not go to that doctor?
because he doesn't have any problems. He
But you
doesn't,
took him to the hospital.
after he had come back from his house. Then
Right.
once he was
Well,
home,
he still goes to Dad's house, right?
he goes to his house on the weekend.
Okay,
But
so
when
you took him to the hospital and the nurse said follow up with the children's lung specialist, did you do that?
they didn't say follow-up, I asked for that referral because they
Okay.
said nothing was wrong. They said it was allergies.
So why didn't you follow up with the referral since you asked for it?
Because he wasn't displaying any problems. And in Seattle, when he was tested, all of my kids have bronchitis and asthma. And then they all grew out of it. He never has taken an inhaler at home, he never gets sick. And he had the one incident with him, and that was it. So that's why I'm confused as to why he says he has all of these respiratory problems. No, he does not.
Okay. Well, you're
he-
leaving it in my hands today, so that's what my orders are gonna be, temporarily and without prejudice. Do you work weekends?
I do not work weekends.
Okay.
But I do
All right,
take
so
my
you
son to
can-
therapy every
Okay.
Wednesday, and then he has his, Your
Okay,
Honor,
so Dad can do that. You'll pick up from school
and
after
then what about with
Friday.
his brother and
Wait a
his
minute.
sister?
The judge
Would my
thought
client be
it was-
able
Oh.
to get at least one weekend
Yeah,
a month,
yeah.
two weekends if
No,
possible?
no, the third weekend of the month. It's only till trial. It's only till the time of
But-
trial. So Mom has every first, second, fourth, or if there is a fifth weekend, temporarily. So we pick him up from school on Friday, we take him to school on Monday. Because I find today that the safety and welfare of this child is of grave concern to the court. That Dad is complaining that his medical care is not being taken care of. I see at least 9 truancy letters here. I see bad grades, I see tardies, I see missed dates from school. And, you know, unfortunately, this is a situation where I have high conflict. I have high conflict parents that cannot communicate, mostly, from what I see, and you may have equal that he's done to you, but mostly from what I see, his responses are rational, and yours are filled with vulgar words
It
and
is, Your Honor,
accusations
because that's
and
what he
names
shows
that
you.
you call him idiot and dum-dum
I do.
and F you
And can I show you
so-
where he,
well,
where
you'll have
he-
an opportunity to bring that to trial
Can I
at
ask
that
you this?
time, and I'm just saying
There's
that
only been 2 incidents.
he will be able to, on a temporary basis, take him out of school. He'll be able to, you have to get the order to me though, but he'll be able to temporary until the time of trial. But it's shocking to me how terrible he's doing.
But
And
Your
you'll
Honor,
be able to, next week, make a pulmonary appointment or an allergist appointment, but the parents do have to communicate. You have Talking Parents app. Did you give them the brochure
Yeah, I
on the
did,
Talking
but I
Parents
don't
app?
understand where
You'll
all
have an
this
opportunity
information
to
from the
sign
medical
up
is
right
coming in.
away for Talking Parents app. All right, I want you to do that within 24 hours. It's free, so there's no reason not to. And all of your communication will go through the Talking Parents app, okay? All right, and you'll pick him up today.
So-
Counsel, you'll get me that order today.
So we
Alright.
both,
Your Honor, I'm
And
picking
you'll
him up
both-
today after school.
Yes.
Your Honor,
You'll be
can
able
I
to
have a
enroll
chance to
him in
talk
the
to my
school
son?
next to wherever you're living. You're gonna see him every first, second, fourth, and fifth weekend of the month. Dad only has the third weekend of the month. So when you don't have that weekend, you'll be able to see him on Wednesday evening. You can pick him up from school, but you have to return him to dad's. What is his bedtime?
I usually try to get him settling down by 8 o'clock.
Okay, so no later than 7:30.
Your Honor, my
Okay,
son
so you pick
was
him
on
up from
video
school
just
and
yesterday,
take him
said crying,
back to
saying
dad's
that he
house
doesn't
by
want to go.
7:30, okay?
Can I
So he
have
can
till the
get
end of
ready
the
to
day
go
to
to
submit
bed.
the paperwork from school so I can show you
Well, I
what
don't have an opportunity to have an emergency hearing for you. I mean, this has
One-
been on
Wait, I
file,
can
and
have an
I've
emergency-
taken a look at it. I've taken a look at your offers of proof, and I do have concerns for the child, so
But,
one of
Your
the
Honor,
my
big
can I not
temporary
turn in proof
orders.
from the teacher where I communicate with her daily?
Yeah,
And
you
where
can
I'm
bring that to
having him
trial.
tested for
Sure.
dyslexia
Sure, you can bring that to
and
trial,
the
but
reasons why. I
But
mean,
you're not
Children's
allowed to do
Services
all that
came to my
testing
house
by
and they-
yourself. It's a joint legal custodial situation, so any testing to be done has to be by agreement of both parents. So you do have to do that
So
together.
wait, so
if
we
he's to
both-
be tested at a school or is tested for dyslexia, you know,
But the
I
The
want you,
therapist
has
is-
to.
I want you on board together to do that, okay?
Your Honor, can
So
I,
you'll be able to provide all
show
of that
you some of
information
my
at the
evidence
time of
where-
trial.
where
You
I
can
have done
absolutely
nothing but try to
submit
work
your
with him?
exhibits that you've talked to the teacher and that you want to have him tested.
I
I'll see
I
all of
have
that
all of it.
evidence at the time of trial, absolutely, yes.
One last issue, Your Honor. Since he has temporary primary custody, I believe it would be proper to submit that the defendant paid child support at the rate that indicated in her FDF at $27 an hour. In addition, she admits to work at least 20 hours a week,
Okay,
but sometimes even more. So
right.
that's what I was
Well,
working. Do I need to submit
You
all my
do have to,
financial?
you need to refile your financial disclosure form with your paycheck stubs attached. And then I'll take a look at it at that
Okay.
time, counsel, and I'll assess the temporary child support. But I have to have those paycheck stubs, ma'am, so I want you to file that by Monday. Just do an
Okay.
amended financial disclosure form,
Okay.
attaching your paycheck stubs,
then
okay?
on Tuesday, then I'll give you the order with that.
Now,
Okay, and
can
just
I-
make sure that if your social security number or something like that, block that out, cause you don't want that on the file.
Don't put my social on there?
No.
Okay, so can I ask you this? I have been working with this therapist now for more than 6 months, and she has everything documented on file, and our reasoning for everything, and if I turn in my paper, my son, he has emotional issues since he's come back into the picture. And it has not been good, it just hasn't, it's been a roller coaster for him, and it would be very disruptive. He has his sister, he has his brother, he has my mom, and he has never ever been around anybody other than me, he hasn't. So I don't want to devastate my son, he's 6 years old, and take him away from everything he knows. He doesn't even like to go on the weekends. And I have all the proof for Class Dojo and from his teacher, where I work with her and I talk to her daily, and the therapist as well, to get him back on track where he needs to be. But I do know that he does struggle with dyslexia. He does his writing backwards, his numbers
Right.
backwards.
And it's best to get him tested, because if you're doing all of that on a daily basis and he's not showing any improvement, then he definitely needs to be tested. But as parents, you're gonna have to do that together.
And the therapist, he actually goes today to therapy at 6:30. And,
Dad, do you
she
have that
said that she
information?
would have,
I do know about that, and I told the therapist, based off today's outcome, that we may be rescheduling things because there could be a change in
and see, and that's
custody.
terrible because he loves going to therapy, because he likes talking to her and he looks forward to
I
it.
have every intention of
Because they're
continuing
doing-
that. I'm the one who actually pushed him into
Right.
getting the
He
therapy.
pushed it,
I
but he never
scheduled-
went.
Okay, very good. All
Okay.
right, thank you.
He went twice, Your Honor, and I've been taking him for more than 6 months.
He's going to continue going, and the two of you need to get on the same page to
Can
make
I-
sure that he achieves something. I mean, he's struggling. He's
Absolutely.
not doing well at
Your
all.
Honor, that's why I wanna have him tested for the dyslexia, but
But
I have got
you're gonna
countless,
talk about that, and you're gonna do it together.
and I have tons of emails and text messages right here, where I ask him, I go, why are you fighting with me on everything? Where I am very cool, calm, and collected. He has showed you the nasty stuff from the beginning, but he hasn't showed you everything after that.
Okay.
Where, I tell him, I'm like, look, this is not okay. Him rescheduling, him not coming to pick him up, and I've got tons of them. And, I wrote out an 11-page document for you to read where I tell you, like, I want him to be involved. I do. I want what's best for my son, and he fights me on it. And I have those text messages here where I'm pleading with him to, I'm like, Clyde, why? He tells me right in, he's like, I don't fucking like you. He was like, I invited him to Christmas at my house when he was upset about Tristan. I said, Clyde, I did not deny him. You will not come and pick him up. And I asked him, I said, he is asking when you are going to come to get him. Why are you not coming? And he doesn't show up. And, I asked him repeatedly. So I know what you have and what it looks like, but that is not the case.
Well,
It's really not.
What's concerning me,
And as far
Ms.
as the
Bahns, is
medical,
that, there's 9 truancy letters, and he was with you Monday through Friday. That concerns me.
it's
He's
correct.
making D's and F's, and he's with you Monday
I
through
switched my
Friday.
schedule, Your Honor.
So
There was a
Dad
hard time.
can step up, and he has the opportunity to see if he
Your
can
Honor, I'm
turn
gonna
this
be
around.
honest. There was
And
I had
that's
a very hard
that's
time.
what the court is looking at.
I understand. I had a hard time getting him there because I had to be at work by 7. I have an email right here where I asked him to help me get him to school because I have to be at work by 7 and having to depend on other people, he's not getting there, which is why now I'm not working my hours because I take him to school every day.
Sure.
And he has not had those absences or tardies since I've been taking him every day.
When did you start doing that?
I started doing that in January. In January, he only had 3 tardies. That was it. Because I changed my schedule. I don't even work full-time because his schooling is important. Both my grandparents are educators. And, I've changed my whole schedule to make sure I get him there every day, so therefore it's not left to anyone else. But when I did ask him, because he said that he would help sometimes, he didn't. He fell through on it, just like he never continued going to the therapist. And as far as the medical, I don't even know where that's coming from, because he was only sick at his house. And then he had an upper respiratory infection one time, and he was on antibiotics, which I sent with him. So I don't understand why he's saying that.
But you asked for a referral to a children's health lung specialist, and then you didn't go.
I asked for that referral because he was coughing, but they told me at the hospital, they said that they're allergies. The same thing that I get around animals or dust or anything, because I'm highly allergic to a lot of things. And so that's all they were telling me, and I said, but he's been coughing. I said, can you give me the referral? But he has not used the inhaler, Your Honor. He has not been sick. So I don't know why he says that. I mean, he did tell me he was sick at his house one time, and he gave him like 60 mLs of Robitussin. And I'm like, what? You can't do that. But no, I've never not given him his medication, ever. He has an inhaler to use PRN as needed.
Well, I'm not finding that you haven't given medication. I'm just finding that the two of you aren't cooperating, and you're high conflict. And I'm ordering you to make those appointments next week.
I'll make the appointments
No, no.
today.
The two of you.
Okay.
Not you, and not you. The two of you make the appointments together. You discuss it through talking parents.
And
This is the doctor that I found. This is the available appointment. We will go together. You'll go to the appointments together. There's no more, I'm taking control, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, my son. It is your son together, and neither one of you boss the other one around.
Can I say one more thing, Your Honor?
Of course.
I have character statements here from lots of different people and people who I've worked with, people I've taken care of, and they speak of my character and about what kind of mother I am. I have 3 other kids. My daughter is 22nd in her class.
So let me tell you about character statements. They are not admissible as evidence for this reason, because they are a self-serving statement, they're hearsay, and that person is not subject to being cross-examined as to bias or prejudice by the other side. So character letters are never admissible. That
Even
person
though it's
has
from-
to come and be sworn in and testify.
Oh, so I could call them as witnesses?
But your attorney, you'll talk to your attorney about that, okay?
Okay, and can I state for the record that,
No, we're just going in circles.
no, can I
I
say
have to
one
give
more
her
thing?
her time.
Like I said, in all of these documents I have where I ask him to work with me, and I tell him all the time, I'm like, we just need to do what's right for Tristan, because that's my only concern. That's the only person I care about. And I don't wanna fight with him, I don't wanna argue with him, I don't like discord in my life.
Okay.
Even when I talked to his brother, because we were using him as a mediator, and I have the email and text message where I thanked him. I was like, you know, that's perfect, but hopefully we can get to a point where we're able to, you know, talk and work things out. Because I've never had this problem before. My daughter, she sees her vet every year, and I give him extra time, he gets extra time. We've never had problems. Ever. And so,
Okay. Well, hopefully you won't have any more problems with each other either. And you'll have that good relationship with him that you strive for.
I hope I do. I mean, like I said, I work with his teacher. I have all her messages on Dojo. I talk to her every day. And I change my schedule to get my son to school.
Okay.
Because I don't want him disrupted. I don't, you know what I mean? Because he is doing poorly, and that's why I
Okay.
know the dyslexia, and we have his IEP, and, you know, we sit down and do his homework. So those have all, you know, that has changed. Everything that he's referring to was in the beginning of the year, and it was terrible, because I didn't know if I was going to
It was
homeschool him.
all of last year.
Yeah, it was bad. I couldn't get him there because I worked at 7, I had to make money, and so it was just,
Right. Okay, so you know that the behavioral order requires you to clean up your language.
correct.
Okay, so
And I don't
I'm
have a
just
problem.
putting you on fair warning so you don't get yourself in trouble.
I understand.
Okay.
And in all my later emails and text messages, Your Honor, you can see that I stopped using that language and that profanity, and you can see where I also apologize to him for using that type of language. But it also shows what he says to me, you know, because it's very one-sided, whereas I've printed out the whole text streams and all the emails, where he's picked, you know, took pieces out. And I have the full stream, so you can see it both ways. Because
I'll look at that at the time of trial. You'll have an opportunity to lodge your exhibits, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions about my orders today?
I do,
Just-
well,
I'll let you
me or,
go. Go ahead.
Well, both of you. It was to both of you.
what are the orders?
You didn't hear
Are
me?
you talking about for the temporary,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question, just so that it's better for my son? And because I have changed my schedule, can we do half a week? Because weekends are not that's not gonna be okay for him. It's really, really not. And I get him there, and I have no problem with doing 50-50 with
So
him.
your question is, will I change my order?
Can we do 50-50
Your question is, will I change my order?
to 50-50? Yes.
I
because
will not change my order. Because
even though it's in the best interest of my son.
I find that it isn't in the best interest of your son.
But you can look at the attendance and everything and see from where
I
I've
did look at the
started.
attendance and the 9 truancy letters. I did.
But that was all from before, not since I've changed
For
my
a
schedule.
whole year, ma'am. So your question is, will I change my order? And my answer is not at this time. Do you have a question?
My client just wanted to clarify, to the defendant, that he is to pick up Tristan today after
Yes.
school day.
Yes.
That's all.
Okay, all right. Thank you, counsel. Thank you, Ms. Bahns. And you have the new court date? The
What
new
time
trial
is
date?
that in court date? Is it 9 o'clock again?
Yeah, it's, I have it written down here somewhere.
June 12th.
June 12th at 9 a.m.
Perfect, thank you.
And he's going to prepare a
Yes,
submitted Brunzel after.
yes. Yes, thank you.
So,
Thank you.
can I ask one more question?
One more question, yes.
So, is that order something that I can appeal or no?
You can appeal it to the Supreme Court or get a writ, I believe, but you can talk to your attorney about that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and then,
Their books? We usually just
Right.
keep them.
Yeah, he's gonna add stuff to him though.
do I, It's,
Oh, gotcha, okay.
They'll make sure.
do I
Okay.
take,
Oh, yeah.
do I leave this here?
Okay, no, you keep it,
I take this?
yes.
You have it, yeah. I'm gonna probably do a new one.
Yeah, we're done.